Hello and welcome to my channel, Mr. Cool George. I'm a filmmaker. I like telling stories. So if you are a fan of mysterious, suspense-filled stories with a twist, then you have come to the right place, to the right channel. I like telling stories. That's exactly what I do. Without wasting any time, let's get into today's story. Okay, so in the 1950s, Katherine Knight was born in a rural town, Aberdeen, in New South Wales. And she was unfortunate enough to be born in a household which is constantly dealing with a lot of issues, including alcoholism, drugs, and a lot of other problems. She never had a proper family environment because her dad was a chronic alcoholic person. So there was a lot of problems, drug usage, violence, and all these things that's happening around Katherine all the time. So this might have contributed to her behavior at a later stage in her life. So long story short, she had a very traumatic childhood, and but every time when Katherine thought about growing up, she always told in her mind that when I grow up, I need to have a proper family, I need to have a loving, proper family and kids, and I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm going to be responsible towards my children, and I'm going to have a proper family life. And that was Katherine's big dream. And Katherine, after the years passed, she's now grown up, and she started dating. But every time she met somebody, it was like a pattern, or it was like something that's influencing. It's maybe due to her traumatic past. She always found somebody who is not suitable for her, or somebody who had the characteristics of her, let's say her father, her own father, who is also alcoholic or have dealing problems with drugs and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, every kind of relationship that Katherine ended up having also turned out to be toxic. It would be smooth in the beginning, but after months or years passed, it will become toxic, and they'll start fighting, and it will end up bitterly for all the parties. So this was going on for a while, and Katherine also at the same time, she got into a lot of trouble. She also started using drugs and alcohol, and she often ended up in trouble during this stage of her life. And she had some criminal cases against her also. However, life was going on, life was moving on, and at this stage, Katherine is now single, and she's almost 40 years of age. And by this time, she had almost given up on all hopes of finding a suitable partner in accordance with her concept of a proper family life. It wasn't happening for Katherine for one reason or the other. And during this stage of her life, she found a man. His name is John Price. And from the very beginning, Katherine knew that this guy is not like the other people that she happened to meet before. John was very much giving her a lot of care, and he was very attentive to her stories about her childhood abuses and the situations and the traumatic experience that she had to go through. And she was very empathetic. He was very empathetic towards her. And Katherine also liked John Price. So, without wasting any time, they started living together. Now, John was also about the same age as Katherine. He was also 40, and he had also 3 kids from his previous marriage. So he is now single, but he was married before and he had his own 3 children. So Katherine decided to move in with John. She did, and initially John's kids also found Katherine to be like a mother for them, and she was taking care of the kids, and she was taking care of all things that needs to be done in a family. So it was good, and for the first time in Katherine's life, probably she felt like she's being part of a family, where she's also having she's experiencing a proper family setting for the first time in her life, and she was happy. However, after a few months, it turned out to be also problematic, and one of the main reasons for that is because Katherine was asking John that she now wants to be in a marriage. She wants to get married. However, from John's perspective, he knew about Katherine's troubled past and issues with the law, and her. She also had a very bad temper. That led to a lot of problems in her life before with her previous boyfriends and other relatives or colleagues. So John was very well aware of all these things about Katherine, and not only that, he had to go through a messy divorce and things like that. So he wasn't very happy to get married again. So he was very hesitant. So he told Katherine openly that that's not possible. I cannot marry you. So that was a constant friction point in the coming days, and they used to argue about this. And one time, Katherine lost her cool, and she actually attacked John with a knife. It wasn't nothing major, but it was just a small minor scratch. However, this was like, this is it. Clearly, this was kind of an end for their relationship. So Katherine stormed outside the property. So she decided to live separately, and she decided to move into another apartment from where they used to live together with John. So she started living in a different apartment, and John was again with his own 3 kids. He was moving on with his life, and he used to work in a local, because this was a mining city, so he used to work in the local mine. So he moved on with his life, and Katherine was in a different apartment, not too far away, however still separate. After a few days or months passed, Katherine again, she was feeling like she's alone, and she wanted to patch up with John and his kids, because by this time the kids were also kind of attached to Katherine. So Katherine decided, no matter what, I'm going to patch up things with John. So one day, without letting John know, she came back to John's apartment. John was obviously at work, and Katherine probably had the keys to his apartment, so she came in without announcing it to John. She came in, and what she also did was she managed to send the kids away from John's house. She took the kids to a friend of her, and just to get some privacy for John and herself when John comes back from work, because like I said, she at this point in time, she really wanted to patch up things with John, and she thought that it would be a great idea to spend some time together with John without anyone else present. So that's how she managed to get the kids outside to a front without asking John. And then when John came back, he found the house empty. The kids weren't there, and Catherine was also not there. But John knew that this is something that Catherine did. He wasn't very happy about it. However, Catherine was not around, and he was very tired from work, so he was watching some TV after coming back to home and watching some TV. And whilst he was watching TV, he was on the couch, and he just fell asleep. And this time, and about when it was like 11:30 p.m. in the night, Catherine came back to John's property. This time, she came back, and she was wearing like lingeries and things like that, and she came near John, and by this time John woke up, but Catherine was in this seductive approach to John, and for whatever reason John could not get much time to question her about the kids or all these kind of things. Long story short, they were getting into a very intimate moment, and they had sex. So afterwards, John was already, like he said, it's too late and he's already tired from work. So John went into the bedroom, and he was asleep in a few minutes. Catherine was also sleeping with him, and however, Catherine wasn't really sleeping. All this time, she was thinking to herself that this man is like, he doesn't want to marry me, but he's, using me, that kind of thinking. So Catherine felt a lot of anger towards John, and like I said before, she's notorious for her anger issues and problems. So she decided that she's going to do something about this particular situation. So John was sleeping. He is already tired. He don't know what's exactly going on. So what Catherine did was, she actually gone outside John's property, and she went to her apartment, which is not too far, and she went to her apartment, and she took her work tools. Now, when we say work tools, Catherine is not an average grocery store worker or something like that. She is actually working in a butcher shop. Okay, so she is her work tools is all these different type of knife and machetes and all that kind of stuff that she used to butcher the animals. So that's her background, that's her work. So she came back to John's house into the kitchen, and she unloaded all her tools of the trade, which is obviously all these knives and things. And what she did was, she took one of the knife and she checked that it is really sharp, and she went to the bedroom where John was sleeping, unaware of anything that's going on. She then slowly climbed into the bed, and almost like sitting on top of him, like not really sitting on top of him, but almost in that position, and she lifted this knife with both hands, and then in one split second she attacked John with this knife, and the knife got pierced into his chest, and Catherine did it with full force. So John was deep in his sleep, but he obviously he felt it, blood was splashing all over, and he screamed and got up, and he didn't had any idea what was going on, and he ran away to escape from that room. So all this time, blood was splashing all over, and then he just reached almost to the entry point of their exit door, and he was trying to grab the door and then open it inwards so that he can go out, but he collapsed because too much blood was losing. So let's stop the story there for a second. Back in John's mine, where he used to go for work, the very next day, when his manager realized that John is not at work site. John was a very reliable employee. He always goes to his office on time, or to the mine on time. So they realized that something is off, something gone wrong. So they tried to call him or contact him, but nothing was there. There was no response. So one of the workers in the mine actually decided to come and have a look. So he came, and when he came, nobody was there. So he walked around the house, and he saw there like a plate of meat and things were thrown out of the window, so he could see it, but he could not get access to the house because everything was locked. He called for John, there was no response, so he was about to leave, and then he suddenly found there was some blood stains on the front door. So he had a close look, and he could see that there are some blood stains on the entry door. So now they realized that he immediately called his boss and informed him that he came here at John's house, there's no one, there's no response, but he found some blood stain on the front door. So now this time his boss decided that it's time to call the police. So the police arrived. So when the police arrived, they obviously unlocked the door, and they came inside. And when they came inside, they couldn't find anything, but they could see a trail of blood that leads to their bedroom. Now they went to the bedroom where John and Katherine was sleeping the night before. They went to the bedroom, and they found there's a closet